All right, guys, Spencer with Hush Holsters here. Just doing a little quick video to recap what our good friend Pete at the Firearm blog said on his Silencer Saturdays, the pistol holsters situation. So he didn't say anything incorrect. I'm just expanding upon that article. So the thing I'm trying to talk about here is the actual cost of holstering your suppressed handgun. And that's here highlighted. If you don't want to look at any more of the video, this is the total cost of getting yourself set up. That's the TLDR. But we'll start with the Hush holster. So the Hush holster costs $119.99. And you obviously, if you don't already have a light, you'll need a light. The cheapest light that's currently available to use is $124. And the most expensive one that we have currently for sale is $430. That's the Surefire X300V, which is for Vampire, which has the infrared. So if you have no mounting hardware, no belt, no war rig, whatever, you're looking at about $55 to $100. And if you combine, let's say you already have the mounting stuff, but you don't have a light, you're looking at about this much, somewhere in that range. If you need everything, if you need a belt and a light and the holster, you're looking around here. So just as an example, my personal favorite light to use in this aspect is the Streamlight TLR1 HL. I bought a whole bunch of these, looking at $160. That's what I feel like is one of the best weapon lights on the market for the price. So 160 plus 120 basically is 280. Let's say you need a drop leg, you're looking at $100 extra there. So you're looking at $380, which is still, again, obviously in between here. Now, what is a drop leg, you might ask? That is this setup right here. A drop leg puts the suppressed handgun on your hip. And I've done a video about this. Here's another example of it. I've done a video about this. When you have a suppressed handgun with this big suppressor or a pickle hanging off the end of it, it kind of changes how things interact with the world. So when you have a one mounted to your belt, like right here, the problem is that as you have this gigantic piece of metal sticking off the front of your gun, it likes to catch on stuff. So while I, for any other sort of non-suppressed shooting, don't use a drop leg, it just doesn't make any sense. When I use a suppressor, it's always on a drop leg. And again, the reason is as you move your leg forwards and backwards, the suppressor stays with you. So if you kneel down, it's not going to touch your ankle or your leg or whatever. If you step over a log, it's not going to hit on something. So I believe that a drop leg is really necessary. But let's say you don't agree with that, and you just want to get some hardware. You're looking at about $55 just to mount it to your belt alone. So again, we're looking at $360, which is for everything. If you need a light, you need a drop leg, you need the whole shebang. So now we'll talk about the elephant in the room, the Surefire Masterfire, which is pretty highfalutin. I'll show some extra examples of it in a minute. The holster price is $239, which is obviously more expensive, but that includes just a holster. Here's the big problem that not many people realize, is that the Masterfire only uses these lights. Oops, nope, where'd it go? Yeah, there we go. It only uses these lights. You can only use this light, or this light. If you have a regular X300 UA, it's not going to work. If you have an X300 UB, X300V, whatever. If you don't have one of these Masterfire lights, you cannot use this holster, period. So you have to buy a brand new light. The cheapest light they have is $379. So if you want to use your Surefire Masterfire, if you want one because they look cool, you have to at minimum buy the holster and a $379 light. It comes with a drop leg. I mean, it's drop leg compatible already. It's also QLS compatible. But the minimum amount of money you're going to spend is $618. That is not an insignificant amount of money. When your can costs $200 and whatnot, like this is a big deal. So we'll go through the pros and cons here shortly, but the Ragnarok SD, it's a little cheaper than the Hush holster. I get it. It's $80. Here's the kicker again. If you look at the T-Rex Ragnarok, all it comes with is a holster. The only lights you're available to use are the 300T U and V and the XVL2. Those are not cheap lights. The cheapest light you can get is $287. It's a brand new light off of Amazon. If you find a used one, I can't tell you how much that's going to cost. The XVL2 and the XVL2 IRC are $1,500 lights. So the minimum money you can spend if you need a light is $287. Then this comes with no hardware. You're gonna, if you want to buy a drop leg, for instance, a drop leg situation from Safariland, you're looking at between $102 and $150. I didn't pick up the $102 one here, but it's still a reasonable demonstration of what it looks like. And then you can put it on your belt rig. So the minimum amount you can spend if you don't have a light is $420, and if you want infrared or whatever, infrared lasers and such, you're looking at $1,600, which is a lot of money, as many people know. So now we'll look at the QVO secondary SD. It's $110, very similar. Again, the difference is it only works with a certain kind of light. And those lights, I thought I already had this pulled up on this page, are the X300U and the PL350. PL350s, I have never actually used one. They are very expensive. So $287 for an X300U and $350 for the Mod Light PL350. Comes with no mounting. It does come with some mounting hardware, but it's all like kind of belt height, which is not what I think is the best way to go about these things. We can talk about that later in a future video. But again, let's say you want to run it like I think it should be run, which is pushed down a little bit from your belt. You're looking at $450 to $562. Let's say you just want to run it with the belt loops that they come with. Take $55 off of that. You're still at $400. So again, this is a much more expensive option. The Armadillo Concealment Expert is $80. That's great. Once again, it's using a Surefire X300, which is $287 new at a minimum. I have not found any good information as to how this can mount to a QLS system, which I think is the superior way to mount these things. I know you can mount it directly to your belt with whatever they have on there. I don't think that's a very good way to mount it. I'm going to put unknown here, but it may be zero. And in here, that's kept at zero. So you're looking at $360 to holster this thing. So pretty much equivalent to having a very expensive light, the Surefire X300, and the holster as what you would get with a TLR1 and the holster here. We'll talk about what else could be included in that. Well, the drop leg's included, first of all. Then we're looking at the Shamrock holsters, which is a custom leather holster. It's only $80. You have to tell them what kind of, I guess I have it pulled up here. Is it here? Yeah. So you tell them what leather you want, right or left-handed. You have to tell them the gun make, the caliber, barrel length, suppressor, things like that. It's $80. That's great. If you look at what is available, it's just a leather holster. There is no mounting. There is a strap that I believe has a button on it, but that's all you know. The number one thing that's wrong here is that you can't mount it to anything other than your belt. Maybe you could wrangle up some sort of a QLS thing. I don't want to quote into that how much that might cost, but it's possible. Then we're looking at the gun clip from Crye Precision. It's kind of a cool looking thing. I remember looking at these when they first came out and I was like, oh, that's a pretty trick. The big problem is it only works with Glocks and it covers literally none of your gun except the trigger, which in some cases is really good, but when you've got a gigantic suppressor sticking off the front of it and a light, it just doesn't strike me as the right way to do this. There's no QLS compatibility that I'm aware of. That could be incorrect. But the biggest problem we're going to run into here is that it takes two hands to, let me rephrase that. In the demonstration that I've seen, it takes two hands to reholster it. Maybe you can do it with one. That's cool. You practiced it, but it's not conducive to a normal person just being able to pull this out. So that's $41. You don't have to use a light. There's no QLS, which I think is a mistake. And you're looking at $40. So that's cool. If you have anything other than a Glock, you're hosed. So now we'll go through some of the pluses and minuses. Hush Holster, Surefire Masterfire, and the Shamrock all have active retention. Crye Gun Clip technically does too because it's like locked in there. Ragnarok SD, QVO are both made out of Kydex, and they're basically you just got to ratchet it down until the thing doesn't fall out, and that affects your draw. Plenty of people have used Kydex. It's not rocket surgery. The Armadillo basically uses Kydex type retention as well, but I believe it's injection molded off the top of my head. Most of these are left-hand available. I guess I messed this up. This is left-hand available also. It's just completely ambidextrous. The Crye gun clip is only right-handed, as far as I can tell. The fits most handguns. Look, not everybody has 300 handguns. I understand that. Hush holster, it doesn't matter what kind of handgun you have. If it has a rail and it can take a light, one of the lights that we support as of now or in the future, it'll work. Surefire Masterfire, I believe can take any handgun. I should have Googled this. The one issue that we do face is that there is a pretty serious lack of trigger coverage. And I know that this doesn't seem like very much, but let me tell you, I have been hammered on this right here. If you can even see the trigger, people lose their minds about it, which I get. So, not very good trigger coverage there. And that's just, what is that? The Glock clone. Polymer 80. So a Polymer 80, you can see the trigger, you can probably even touch the trigger. That is not acceptable to a large number of folks. The fits most handguns, Ragnarok SD, as far as I know, can handle almost anything. QVO does not. You have to tell them what gun you want. Beretta M9s, FN 509s, Glock 19s, Smith & Wesson 9s, 320s, Staccatos, Walthers, and some Zevs. So, as far as I can tell here, unless the Staccato 2011s come in 45, you can't have any 45, 40, 10, 5, 7, whatever. So you're only stuck with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different guns. So, that's if you have one of those guns, that's great. Armadillo takes anything, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen any issues with that. Obviously, the Shamrock can take whatever you want. You just got to tell them what it is. I'm sure they draw it on a piece of paper, which is cool. Crye, looks like I collected that and I shouldn't have. It only takes Glocks, and it only takes, looks like the 17, 19, and 22, and 23. So pretty much the most popular Glocks, but doesn't take anything else. So out of the box fit. Hush holster, just put the light on, put the gun in, you're ready to go. Same with the Surefire. Ragnarok, you specifically are told that you have to, where is it? Ragnarok SD must be modified using a heat gun or hairdryer in order to achieve proper fit on your gun and suppressor combo. Look, it's not that big a deal to have to do that. Use a hairdryer or heat gun, but it's modded to your one gun. If you have another gun that you want to suppress, you're kind of hosed. QVO fits out of the box if you have one of those handguns that it works with. Armadillo, everything will fit. Shamrock, whatever. Crye gun clip, like I said, needs to be... I guess if you have one of those guns, it works just fine. QLS compatibility, to me, this is a very, very serious thing because I switch out holsters quite a bit when I'm shooting competition or hunting or whatever. So all of these are QLS compatible. Armadillo, I've heard some people have done it with a bunch of washers and stuff like that. It's possible. I just have not actually seen more than one instance of it, if any. Shamrock, you could probably figure it out, but I don't know how off the top of my head. Crye gun clip, I have not seen anybody do it yet. Number of compatible lights. Right now we're at 17. We're going to be doing more as of this week, which is June 26, 2024. Surefire has 7. They're all very expensive. Ragnarok SD only has 2. They're both pretty expensive. QVO only has 2. They're both pretty expensive. Armadillo only has 1. It's relatively expensive. Shamrock requires none. Crye, if you look at how this thing interacts, and it has this big space right here, I don't know that there are any lights that won't fit. Maybe like the TLR7 or a real small one that kind of really hugs into there, but I haven't heard of any lights not fitting. Yeah, so the material, Hush holster made out of carbon fiber reinforced nylon. Surefire Masterfire, it's nylon. It's probably glass reinforced, but I don't necessarily have any confirmation of that. Ragnarok SD is Kydex, QVO is Kydex. This is nylon. I believe it's probably glass reinforced, but I have no real knowledge of that. That's leather. This one's nylon, probably also glass, but maybe not. I don't know. The reason that I put this in here is Kydex is, in my opinion, a great material for some things, not for everything. Kydex is very bendable, it's very giving, um, and it doesn't really have the same strength as what you can do with injection molding and or additive manufacturing. Um, Obviously, it's great to work with. Custom stuff's really easy. You can mold it to what you need, but when it comes to a holster, if I can have it injection molded, I'd prefer it to be injection molded. It's just going to be a better material overall. It's going to have additives like carbon fiber or glass or whatever. So the pros, boy, this didn't format very well. The pros for the Hush holster: price overall. This price ends up being lower than almost anything that really matters. I don't really view these as great options. We can talk about that too. Actually, let's talk about it now. If you draw your suppressed handgun from the Shamrock Holsters custom leather holster, it will look like the Joker. And if you don't know what that is, I will just pull it up now. Yeah, we'll just do it right here. Oh my god, I should have done this earlier. So it's like a 12-inch draw, pretty much, maybe more. And you may think, oh, I can deal with that, it's no big deal, but I have a very serious feeling that you're not going to enjoy it. Um, it's just going to look goofy. It's not going to feel good. There we go. I got it. So, oh no. Yep, right there. We'll just watch it one more time because it's hilarious. He draws it out. That's what it's going to look like if you draw your suppressed handgun out of your Shamrock Holsters custom leather holster. Cry gun clip. It's a little goofy looking. You don't get to draw up or out. You kind of have to go sideways, which is not the way I would prefer to do it. But that's, if you like that, that's your thing. So, price, the Hush holster wins in almost everything. If you use a cheap light, you can get it under $300. If you use the light that I think is one of the best ones, you're still under $400, which is close to, but not the same as these if you don't have any hardware and such. It's not perfect, but and if you have the Armadillo, it's almost the exact same price. So, Hush holster has level 1 retention. Let's just talk about that. It is not ready for someone to come grab your gun and pull and not be able to pull it out. That's not what this is for. This is for competition use. This is for hunting and things like that. The active retention is something that I think is really important when it comes to having, let's say, a $600 or $800 suppressor and a $500 to $700 gun and a $300 optic and a $200 light and all these other things that you may have done. It's a lot of money to just have a bunch of Kydex holding onto it with an open top. The other thing that the Hush holster has is we do have models for the Mark 23, the FNX45, FN57, large guns, large frame handguns that will not have any trigger coverage in the Surefire Masterfire. That's something I think is very important. Mark 23s are super cool, especially to run suppressed and with a laser unit or a light. Can't use it in the Surefire. Also, that would be a ridiculously expensive setup. Some of the cons for the Hush holster. Not many people know who we are yet. And I can't activate the light as it comes out of the holster. I don't want to do that, but some people may think that it's a negative. So we'll talk about the Surefire. Surefire has level 3 retention. That is very important to some people. The downside is that that is level 3 retention, and that comes with cost and complexity and things like that. There are not, as far as I know, no public-facing law enforcement agencies like a regular police officer that allow for suppressors to be used. So this is kind of, is it good in some ways? Yeah, but beat cops, duty cops aren't going to be running suppressors any time in the near future. So that's not something that I think is necessarily all the way a pro, but to some people it is. Light activation, some people love that. I've heard that it does not work great. I would love for it to work great, but that's just what the word on the street is. Negative, price. You cannot get into this holster under $618 unless you already own one of these very specific lights. The light activation is pretty complex. These lights are expensive and uncommon, so the chances that you have one of these Masterfire lights already is very low. There's no option for large pistols. Let's just take a look at that photo one more time. That is not very good to me. You can see the trigger. That's not cool. The Ragnarok SD, A lot of people have been using it. They have colors and patterns available. I don't really see any other pros except that people know who they are. There's no retention. Kydex sucks, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, and requires an expensive light. If you don't have the light, you got to pay $422 to get into this thing. Period. QVO, you got great pistol coverage. It covers almost the entire gun. These pictures are super dark, but it covers a good amount of the gun. Maybe about the same as mine does. On the top, I guess it has a little bit more. Do you have another picture of this? They do not. So you can see it covers a little bit of the top. You can't get into that thing without $450. I guess you could run the belt loops and bring it down a little bit, but like this is, I think, the best way to run it is $450. No retention, Kydex construction, requires a pricey light, and only fits certain guns. If you don't have one of those guns, you just can't use it. Armadillo concealment. The best thing I think it's got going for it is it's very low profile. I owned one of the original ones of this, the Kydex one. There's no retention. I have no idea how to mount it to QLS, and it requires a pricey light. This is, I guess, if you don't have the light, it's very expensive. If you do have the light, it's marginally less expensive than the Hush holster, but like $50 for active retention or less, and the ability to do QLS out of the box, I think is probably worth it. Shamrock holsters, great custom fit. Pistol's not going to get hurt. Price is pretty good. You cannot run a light. Maybe if you told them you wanted to run a light, you could. I have no idea how to mount this in any way other than your belt. Maybe a shoulder holster, but nobody's going to effing use that. Draw length, crazy. If you have a micro pistol with a micro suppressor, maybe that's reasonable, but like I don't think you're going to. Cry gun clip, excellent fit, fits those really well. Price is good, extremely low profile. If you don't have a Glock, you're hosed. I have no idea how to mount it to a QLS. Basically covers nothing of the gun. That drop legs are very important in this case. Reholster speed is pretty slow as far as I've seen. Maybe you've trained it and you're really fast, but that's not me. And it requires 2 hands to reholster. Again, maybe you can do that with one hand, but it just seems like a lot of stuff to do with one hand. So, that being said, go back to my website. We've got all of these lights in stock: TLR1, TLR7, X300, V, Peel Pro, Balder Mini, Mark 23 X300s and TLR1s, Holosun PIDs. This stuff's ready to roll. If you have any questions about this, how this might affect your purchase decision or like how it's going to work with your setup, just give me a call. The number is on the website, and I'll just pull it up right now because what if I typed in the wrong thing for this video? That would be super silly. I don't know why it's going slow. There we go. You can call me at 971-236-1711 or email me there, and we'll talk about it. I can help you with your setup a little bit, but basically, this is what the comparison looks like at the end. Yeah, thanks for watching. I know this is a 23-minute video, and have fun shooting.